Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk about all major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I'm Chris, and Jungle Cruise is now out and has brought in over $90 million currently in the international box office, including the $30 million it brought in on Disney Plus Premier Access. Now, the purpose of today's video, which will contain minor spoilers but nothing too crazy, is to connect all of the Easter eggs from the Jungle Cruise Disney ride over at Disneyland with the movie which was inspired from the ride. There are a fair amount of cool Easter eggs which, if you are a huge Disney fanatic and have been on the ride several times, you surely did recognize, but if maybe you haven't been on the Jungle Cruise ride in a long time or maybe ever, here's some cool connecting points and Easter eggs that you may have missed in Jungle Cruise. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, guys. A lot of awesome content coming your way here. Breakdowns, Easter eggs, reviews, reactions, and much more. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss anything that we cover. We have videos going out daily. Also, take the moment to comment down below your thoughts and your impressions on Jungle Cruise, and then after the video, also let me know if there were any Easter eggs that I missed that you did notice. Now, I'm not going to be doing these in any particular order, and like I said earlier, this is a minor spoiler warning. If you don't want any details about the movie, you should click away. I won't be talking about any major turning points or plot points, mostly just about the cool little hidden details that are going on, the majority of which take place during the beginning of the film. But if you want to be safe, you should click away and come back after you've seen the movie. So for starters, if you were not aware, the movie Jungle Cruise was actually inspired from the 1955 installment of the Disneyland ride Jungle Cruise, which was originally adapted and put into the park to share awareness of a lot of different creatures, and like we saw in the movie with the recording box, as Emily Blunt's character so eloquently put, with the recording box you can bring anything in the world right to you. And that was the idea of Jungle Cruise, to allow people to see a Amazonian safari without having to go to the Amazon. And that was the idea of the inclusion of all of the animals, the natives, and all of the other parts of the attraction that make it a really cool Jungle Cruise. And of course, the most obvious parts of everything going on as far as connections and Easter eggs were during the very first Jungle Cruise that we saw with Frank. Now, there were a few different points that we should bring out, but this Jungle Cruise was a simulation of the ride, the things you might see on the ride, and even kind of a joke at how corny and cheesy originally the ride was. It has gone over many different updates throughout the years, has had parts taken out and put in, and we'll discuss that a little bit in this video, but overall, the original 1955 Jungle Cruise, it was very obvious that it was all fake. And we get a really interesting look at that as Frank is going around scamming his customers and making fake waterfalls and paying off fake tribe members to come and attack them, and different events that were going on around him. Now, the puns that Frank uses during his trip are also a heavily important part that was derived from the ride. On every single Jungle Cruise adventure you go on, the skipper of that adventure ride will be making terrible pun jokes, many of which have been recycled over time, but sometimes they get a little creative as well, which brings us to the backside of the water. During the film, there was a part where he cuts a rope and it opens up a water trough line that drops a waterfall, and he says the main attraction, the backside of water.
The backside of water. Steve's wonder of the world.
And that's really cool because 100% of the time, your skipper on the Jungle Cruise ride will make that same joke, which made this a clear and obvious winner of inclusion and Easter eggs for this film. And many of you who are familiar with the ride will have been very pleased to see they included it, and if they hadn't, you would have probably been pretty upset. Another cool inclusion was Jungle Navigation Company, which was the name of Frank's cruise company where he would bring people out and pay them to hear his terrible jokes and see his fake waterfall. However, the same name, Jungle Navigation Company, is the name of the fake company at Disney, which also puts on these Jungle Cruise tours. So a really cool little inclusion, a really easy connection and Easter egg there, but definitely one you may have missed. Then we have a not so subtle Easter egg, and one for fans who really know what's going on over at Disney probably got really excited to see. Now, the bird that we see, who often is yelling at Frank saying that he owes me money, is Rosita the bird, who you can see from the Enchanted Tiki Room in Disney, and that's where Rosita used to be, but now is often found throughout different parts and alternating parts of Disneyland. So a character who many people know and are comfortable and familiar with, directly included in the Jungle Cruise movie right from Disneyland. During one of the earlier scenes when Emily Blunt and The Rock are getting to know each other and she's trying to convince him to take her out before she realizes that he's lying about who he is, they eat in a canteen. Well, this canteen is almost a perfect replica of a restaurant inside Disney World known as Jungle Skipper Canteen. Obviously, the inclusion of an iconic Disney restaurant, which has a huge jungle theme, so far to go Jungle Skipper Canteen, is a very cool way to include your parks in your movies and bring a movie based around a ride into a little bit more of a realistic way for viewers to put themselves there. If you had been to the restaurant before or ever go back in the future, feeling the set there alive with you would just be a really, really cool moment for fans. And on that note, while we're talking about it, we should put a little side note into reverse Easter eggs, as now if you go back to the Jungle Cruise ride in Disneyland, a few of the props from the movies have actually been included in the line and in the ride. You can see hats and jackets worn by the actors and actresses, a conquistador helmet, and many other things that are now included while you wait in the line or while you're actually on the ride. So I'll call that a reverse Easter egg, because it's really cool that they went back and added that after the fact. This next Easter egg is for people who are very familiar with the Jungle Cruise ride, in fact, familiar with it from a while ago before they made some pretty radical changes to the ride. Originally, and like we saw in Jungle Cruise the movie, there were indigenous people along the ride. This was later changed out and they replaced them for ravenous and crazy monkeys because it was an overplayed and probably outdated racial stereotype, so they decided to remove it and get rid of it. However, the leader of this tribe was called Trader Sam, and in many versions or different days of the ride, Trader Sam would be seen wearing a top hat. Well, in Jungle Cruise, the movie, Disney decided to include these indigenous people, and they also had Trader Sam, who was in fact gender swapped and was played by Veronica Falcon, who did a fantastic job playing the leader of the indigenous people, and in the film at one point, McGregor trades her his top hat in order to have the arrowhead translated, and she puts on the top hat, and it's a very fitting moment, especially as a super cool Easter egg for fans who are, like I said, very familiar with the ride a long time ago before they made these changes. If you were to go back to the Jungle Cruise ride now, these indigenous people are no longer included like I mentioned. However, what a cool little inclusion for them to have in the movie. Another really cool one, and this comes towards the end of the film, is the Tears of the Moon are hidden inside a temple that we later find out is underneath all of the water in the river. The temple that they sail through to get into the location of the Tears of the Moon is an almost exact replica of the temple you have to enter while you're on the ride. Again, a really cool and simple transition from real-world Disneyland to the movie, but I think it was a really cool little nod to the ride and a simple way to get those Easter eggs across. Another huge one is Albert Falls, and if you don't know or aren't familiar with the ride, Albert Falls is actually the one who created behind the scenes and in a fake way. It isn't an actual real person, but the fake person who created Jungle Cruise. The entire company was created by him, and a lot of the maps, artifacts, and different pieces all over the walls and in the restaurants all have his name littered across them. Now, in the movie, he's an off-screen character, and we know this because on several different artifacts that Emily Blunt's character are stealing, we see A Falls, and on a lot of the different maps that they're using in charting, we also see A Falls. He's never mentioned directly, but the inclusion of the character who, at Jungle Cruise Disneyland, has a very important central role is a very cool inclusion for sure. Albert Falls probably would be very happy to hear he did have a little part included in Jungle Cruise, especially since he is the creator and owner of the Jungle Cruise Company in Disneyland. As always, there are a ton of different Easter eggs inside the movie and things to enjoy as far as cool connecting and different pieces for fans of all ages. However, as far as the Jungle Cruise ride to Jungle Cruise movie ones go, those were the biggest ones and the main ones that I saw. Feel free to comment down below any other ones that you saw relating to Disneyland's Jungle Cruise ride. And of course, let me know what you thought about the movie. I'm planning on doing a review for the film later on where I'll give you my honest opinion about it, talking openly about what I thought and what my impressions were as I watched the film. However, regardless of that, it is an awesome film and I would highly recommend you go and give it your own watch and formulate your own opinion on what you think if you haven't already seen it. And if you have, share that opinion with me in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching till the very end of the video. If you found it helpful, useful, or entertaining, be sure to subscribe, hit on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our daily uploads, and I'll see you in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.